Why are certain areas more prone to diseases than others? And what are the geological factors that causes a disease outbreak? All throughout the world, life expectancy is drastically increasing. So fast, in fact, that by 2020, the population of seniors 60 and older will outnumber those 5 and under. But even with the increased life expectancy, we're still getting sick, with the leading contributor being cardiovascular disease in both developed and developing countries. Looking at the map of the world, each dot represents an alert for a disease. Paying close attention, you'll quickly notice a trend that most alerts occurred near the tropics. For the sake of saving time, we'll be focusing on one specific type of disease, cholera. The common cause of cholera is due to poor hygiene, inadequate amount of clean water, and excreta disposal facilities, already having 7 previous pandemics. First pandemic in 1817. The second pandemic in 1826. The third pandemic in 1852. The fourth pandemic in 1863. The fifth pandemic in 1883. The sixth pandemic in 1899. The seventh pandemic in 1961. Cholera is still a major terror in countries where their public services aren't reliable. Once again, you'll notice that all 7 cholera pandemics are relatively near the tropical area. But before we go into detail, we must first understand the geological factors that cause a disease outbreak. In the past 2 decades, WHO, the World Health Organization, declared 4 global health emergencies. Of those 4, 2 occurred in the span of 2014 to 2016. Researchers who charted the rise of infection from 1980 to 2010 in the journal The Royal Society in 2014 found that outbreaks were more common in the past decades. The chart in the upper left corner compares the total global outbreaks to the diversity of diseases. The chart to the right of that shows the host type. The green chart shows pathogen taxonomy, and the blue shows the mode of transmission. First geological factor is transportation, communication, and trades. For most of history, we lived as isolated communities with relatively no communication. Only in the past decade has there been extensive contact, both flora and fauna. The extensive trade and transportation between areas of the world are helping spread diseases worldwide. The chart above shows that there are becoming more and more tourists after every decennial. Next is urbanization. More than half of the world's population live in cities. People now tend to live in densely populated places. This is the ideal breeding ground for diseases. It allows for a disease to jump from one person to another in the overpopulated area. The third geological factor is poverty. When a disease strikes an impoverished or weakened health system, they have a significantly greater chance at thriving and killing people. As you can see in the map above, countries in Africa have a low GDP. The 2014-2015 Ebola epidemic is an excellent example. Every American infected with Ebola during that period survived. As we all know, countries in America are well developed and have a sustainable health system. Not the same goes for West Africa, in which a total of 11,000 died during this period. You could survive Ebola by being under intensive care. The outcome of this outbreak was a matter of fact of who had access to health care and money. Another geological factor is climate change. As our climate has undoubtedly risen over the past decades, it has drastically affected the boundaries of diseases. An example is that Zika is spread by the Aedes mosquitoes. As the climate gets warmer, the mosquitoes' population starts to thrive. They can now extend farther out from where they would naturally be seen. Climate has undoubtedly affected disease transmission. These 4 geological factors, though not limited to, are important factors that impacts where a disease outbreak occurs. Back to the question of why are certain areas prone to diseases, the answer is quite complex. It's not due to one factor, but to multiple factors. Africa is the most disease-prone continent, and it's not due to one factor. This is because of the inadequate amount of clean water, excreta disposal facilities, and the unreliability of public health services. From the scatter plot, you can tell that many countries in Africa are struggling to have a positive GDP. Not only do countries in Africa have one of the lowest GDP in 2016, but also had one of the lowest life expectancy rates, coming in at a range of 50 to 55 years old. This leads to a vicious cycle. Low GDP decreases the health of the inhabitants, which then results in a lower amount of productivity. This then inevitably results in a low GDP, and the cycle repeats itself over and over again. Geography is a wide range of study that impacts us every single day. With this new information, you must now think about what you can do to make a change, to fix these inequalities, to make our world a better place. To conclude, certain areas are more prone to disease outbreaks due to numerous geological factors. This includes, but are not limited to, trading, urbanization, poverty, and climate change. There is a variety of geological factors that could either directly or indirectly impact the proneness of a disease outbreak in a certain area. The same applies to the factor that cause a disease outbreak. Each and every type of disease have their own unique conditions needed to thrive. Different geological factors will have different impacts, but the most common are, but not limited to, trading, urbanization, poverty, and climate.